Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Back for another week of the wrap up. As you can see, still fresh off the move-in. So I'm sitting on my bed at the moment, trying to get this, trying to get some sort of a normal setup for you guys. But how are we all doing? Good to see you in the chat. Lots and lots and lots to talk about tonight. Let me just sort out my screen so I know who's in here. And so we can cover everything that we want to cover. Right, here we are. Can you guys hear me all right? Let me just double check. Right, okay. Right, so we are here, guys. Welcome back to the wrap up with myself, Jamie Talks. Again, you can find me on socials if you are interested. Evening to everyone. Where to start tonight? I figured we're now in that part of the season where it's I don't want to say we haven't got anything to play for, because we always do, but we're in that kind of stage of the season where it feels like this season's almost over in a way. Obviously crashing out of Europe in the way that we did, obviously incredible performance. Let's start there. Actually, obviously last Wednesday spoke to you guys, had very little faith in like, not necessarily the team, but I had very little faith that we'd get anything out of the game. And wow, the performance that they put in last Thursday, what a performance. I was there Thursday night. Nicky Hawkins, he couldn't make the game, so I bought a couple of tickets off him. Went there super last minute because I was meant to be doing a work event. Got down to the game, took my mate with me, and after 10 minutes, I was thinking, what a good decision. Obviously, started the game on fire. Mikel Antonio scored, was clutching that game, played really well. And we were just unfortunate. I think we ran out of puff and run out of steam by like the 60th minute, and they showed why they are unbeaten this season in the latter stages of the game. And we're quite lucky with the Jeremy Frimpong goal, but other than that, I think West Ham went really close to being an unbeaten side, and it was the kind of performance that was you talk about for a while. Like, I always think about like the greatest performance I've seen from West Ham side at the London Stadium. I would say is probably game against Sevilla. Like, not necessarily just for the performance, but also from like the fan kind of atmosphere at the game. And last Thursday was very similar to that in terms of like the crowd was getting behind West Ham, and even when we went 1-1, like the crowd were on their feet clapping West Ham. Like, they understood the task that we had, and they kind of appreciated that West Ham just gave it a good old go. So it was good to see. It was sad to see us obviously crash out of the Europa League, but with Leverkusen, obviously they've been coined by the German media before in the past, Neverkusen, or it's like they're a team that are very much the underdog as well. So if you are going to lose to someone, lose to an underdog who has upset a lot of people this year and could go the entire season unbeaten. So even on the weekend, they scored last minute against Dortmund, who are no mugs. So yeah, good to see that performance there. Going on to the weekend, it was just kind of, Palace are becoming our bogey team, really. I remember I was there last year and they absolutely battered us. I couldn't get an away ticket, so I was sat in the home end in the Palace end, and they were absolutely battering us. It was one of the worst games I've ever been to, because I had to be quiet when we were like 3-0 down. And it was very much the same on the weekend. It was just, thin squad. Players looked a bit disheartened, and they looked like they didn't have much to play for. And teams always have something to play for. Of course, we've got to finish the season strong. With all of the English teams crashing out of Europe last week, apart from Aston Villa, it now looks like it's incredibly unlikely that 8th place is going to, be getting European football. It looks like that won't be going to the English sides, which is obviously a bit of a blow from multiple sides in England, because it now means like the top 7 are probably going to get European football. So it's an interesting one. For us, we need to finish the season strong. Really need to get a performance in, and obviously we started in the worst possible way away at Palace, and as I said, it was always going to be a difficult one, a difficult game a few days after the performance that was put in against Leverkusen. And again, I can see a lot of you guys in the squad talking about the size of our squad and everything, and obviously that's been a problem with West Ham all season. And if we're being honest, the last few years, even in a few years ago when we obviously came up short against Freiburg, that season we were very short going into January, and we didn't strengthen. And kind of saw the same thing happen this year in a way, where we let some squad players go that weren't necessarily doing enough for the team. You know, players like Tito Carroll or Said Benrahma weren't doing a lot for the team, but they were options off the bench. And then obviously going into Leverkusen games and having like a heavy match kind of schedule, it's always going to weigh heavy on the squad. So going into that Crystal Palace game, obviously a few days after the Thursday night kickoff, it was obviously super difficult. Palace aren't in bad form themselves. Obviously, they got a new manager recently in Glasner, and he seems to be doing an okay job. He's seemed to have somewhat kicked on from the job that Roy was doing. And yeah, it's just it's a you know, let's make no bones about it. It wasn't a great performance. I think David Moyes has obviously come out and been equally damning about the performance that we put in that day. We just weren't at it. It was absolutely a dreadful performance. So going on to that, of course, we've now seen the entire week this week, although we've got 6 games left of the season, I believe. I think it's about 6 games. We've seen the entire week dominated by news of the club are now kind of exploring the opportunity of another manager, and that's just the club doing their due diligence. There's been no kind of official messaging from the club that says, you know, David Moyes is leaving or David Moyes is staying, but it's kind of a result of David Moyes' contract is up at the end of the year. I think decisions are going to be made at the end of the year, and I think the club have to do their due diligence in potentially finding a replacement if David Moyes was to leave. So it's an interesting one. Oh, we've got 4 games. Cheers, Barry. Good to see you in the chat, mate. I'll be honest with you guys. Like, obviously, I was at the both games in Leverkusen and all sorts of stuff like that. But in between that, I had a house move, so I've been absolutely balls to the wall for the last like 2-3 weeks, and I've tried to watch as much football as I can, but I've been absolutely shattered and moving and all sorts of stuff. So some football news has just gone completely over my head, and I've missed some bits, but I've tried to keep up as much as I can. So yeah, let's just say hello to a few guys in the chat. So who's in here? Got some regular faces. So evening to Steve. How you doing, mate? Ray's mentally on the beach. I understand it, Ray. No worries, mate. Ray of Hope. Hi, Jamie. Hello, mate. How you doing? Sega. Evening all. Evening, mate. Evening, bro. How you doing, Frano? Frano. Correct me if I'm getting that wrong. Just going to show up a few more of your comments here. So obviously, yeah, Sunday was the result of a Finn squad not using subs at the right time and flogging players to death. And you know, it's hard. It's got to be mentally taxing on the players because, you know, they've obviously crashed out of the European competition on Thursday and have been thrown into a London derby on the Sunday. It's not really much of a derby, but obviously it is a London derby. You get the bragging rights, anyway. But yeah, it was just a terrible performance, very, very flat. And it felt to me like, and I don't want to be disrespectful here because I never make these shows about Moyes in or Moyes out, but the performance did feel like the start of the end of the Moyes tenureship. So it's an interesting one. I want to get into that as well and talk about a little bit about the Liverpool game coming up as well. But you know, just to speak about David Moyes, of course, is, you know, whether he stays or he goes at the end of the season. You know, I'm 31, been going to West Ham games as long as I can remember. You know, I've got pictures of me at Upton Park as a 4-year-old. I don't really remember it well, but there's pictures of me there. Like, I've been such a big fan of West Ham for so many years. And David Moyes is, like, by and large the best manager of my lifetime by a country mile. And you have to go back like 40 plus years really to see any top quality manager. So David Moyes is, whether people want to admit it or not, is in the pantheon of great managers for West Ham. He's up there with the very, very best just because of that Conference League win and also the back-to-back European qualifications. And I know you guys are going to throw out there, like, you know, oldest squad, 3 wins this year, and he's had more money than all the others and things. But football's a very, very different game and everything. And then, like, what I worry about now is, you know, leading on from that performance on the weekend, it's worrying. I don't want to see us kind of pitter out the end of the season and then it just becomes about Moyes being out, because I do really feel like there should be some sort of celebration about David Moyes and what he has done to this football club. You know, we were 17th in the league when he took over us, and we're a long way away from that now. I know our form of obviously suggests otherwise, but we're a long way away from that now. And David Moyes has done a hell of a job at West Ham, and I don't want it to get to the end of the season and then all the discourse is just David Moyes out, So I do worry. I do feel like maybe there needs to be some sort of messaging from the club. I know David's come out. So I call him David. I know Moyes has obviously come out and said, like, there's been talks of a contract and all sorts of stuff like that, like in the last couple of months. But I think conversation is going to be obviously happening at the end of the season. And I just hope that the team doesn't kind of falter and we don't, finish strong and end up not getting Europe and all sorts of stuff like that. So I just hope that we can finish somewhat consistently to get some sort of performance in Europe. Barry's coming in with, we're playing like testimonials all on the beach. Let the fans down. Every team in the bottom half we struggle with because they're all fighting for their lives, aren't they? In Moyes we trusted. It's time for change. 4 games left, Barry. Evening from Essex. I'm from Essex, mate. Top man. Yeah, he is, Jamie. I'm 34. Hustle Crow. Agreed. Hammer since 1996. Moyes did his part. It's time to evolve as a club onto the new level. Do you know what, mate? You could be right. You could be right, of course. Like I say, though, I just don't want it to become... I just really, really worry. Like, I think David Moyes, like, whether people want to admit it or not, and I think we'll appreciate David Moyes, or a lot of fans will appreciate David Moyes a lot more than what they do now, maybe when David Moyes isn't at the football club, because what he has done is bring a level of security to the team and a level of security to the football club where we might not play the most attacking good football, but there are genuine possibilities for big results against big teams, and we've seen that a lot this year. I mean, obviously we've seen it under his tenureship, and the trajectory of West Ham has very much gone up. A lot of people like to kind of dismiss David Moyes in terms of like what he has brought to the football club, in terms of like any team would have won that tournament that we won last year. But look at Villa, for example. Like, they struggled last week. Let's go through on penalties. Like, Tottenham have been knocked out of that tournament before. So he did what he did. Navadius Wilburn, what a name. Of course, we appreciate him. We just think it's time to go. Every player, every manager has his own limits. But mate, I'm not trying to. I'm not sitting here like, and don't get me wrong, guys. I'm not saying this and Moyes in, Moyes out, whatever. The main reason why I've always been Moyes in is because I haven't necessarily had a full understanding of why or who we were getting next. And it's like, football is a treacherous game. Like, you're only a few seconds away from getting, going up the table or going down the table. And of course, football's a gamble, and it's nothing is determined in football, of course. But we've been down there, and under David Moyes, we were there. Now we're there. So it's bringing in a manager that is now of a caliber that is up there and not going back to there and regressing. So we need to kind of build on what David Moyes has built, and he has built the foundations for the football club to very much move forward. And all I'm trying to say is, I feel like I don't want the discourse just to become about David Moyes leaving come the end of the season, because let's say we're going to the next 4 games and we get absolutely battered. Everyone's gonna be like, Moyes, get out of our football club, and there'll be a lack of appreciation for what he has brought. So David Moyes, like, whether he does leave or go, the next person, or all we want to see is progression. I want to make sure that the next manager that does come in, or if it is David Moyes, we don't stagnate, we go up. And seeing some of the names that we've obviously been linked with, obviously the big one being Amorim and whatnot, who is being coveted by a lot of top European sides. There's been talk of some more domestic-based managers as well, like Gary O'Neill and Vincent Kompany. I really like Thomas Frank. If there was a way to get Thomas Frank out of Brentford, I don't know what you guys think about that, but I think Thomas Frank is a great, great manager, and he operates on quite a strict budget at Brentford, does a really good job. I think, getting someone like that in could be it could go very much under the radar, and I think he could be someone that could get us playing some really, really good football. But yeah, let's get some of your chats in the some of your comments in the chat then, guys. So Barry coming in with, we can play good football when we go out teams. Yeah, and last Thursday's an example of that. I mean, we played without our entire starting left side. Obviously, no Paquetá, no Emerson, and yeah, we ran a Leverkusen side right to the latter stage of the game, and we had chances to win that game, and move on to the next round. So completely agree with you, mate. it's just, if we do get a new manager, let's just hope that those football players are still going to be at the club. Obviously, there's lots of talk of Paquetá having a willy won't he type contract situation, whether it activates in the summer, whether he's going to go to Man City and all sorts of things like that. So it'll be, it would be who the next manager has at his disposal, and it'll be that's a conversation for maybe 6 months' time when we're in August. Right, Ray of Hope. That's because season tickets are due. The old Sullivan trick. See, you are like, I think there's a lot of this going around at the moment. A lot of people are. I don't want to call you conspiracy theorists, but it's just like, yeah, David. Sullivan wants to, hike up the prices of season tickets. So it's just like, let's release some transfer news or some news that the club is somewhat trying to go in a good direction, and then it justifies that decision. So I don't know if I'm as fickle enough to believe that, but stranger things have happened in football, mate. So who knows? Why did we stop playing like we did during COVID? What was missing? Irvine leaving? I think there's a lot of things that are like different compared to that. If you think about it, mate, like the team is, there are quite a few different players. Backroom staff is obviously different as well. There's the elephant in the room that, like, you hear about it's age old all the time. You only have to listen to an ex-player speak, and quite often players in training are the best players in the football team, but when it gets to a Saturday, they can't perform. And let's address that. During COVID, there weren't fans in stadiums, so there was less pressurized environment. So players might have performed better than what they would in the crowd. So I think there's a million and one like differences between like the football that we see now and obviously the football during COVID. I think it's hard to compare because they are just different environments, but there definitely has been a change in style, and that style was obviously seen us go upwards. So I'm not really sure, mate. Like, I'll be honest with you. I hope to God we stop bickering and arguing when he's out the club. The fear for me is we find something else to fight about. Oh, mate, Fremer. Let me pin that. How do I pin that, mate? Do you know how depressing it is as a football fan or a West Ham fan when everyone who's not a West Ham fan wants to talk to you about David Moyes, because David Moyes, West Ham fans only want to talk about David Moyes. For someone that's like in the media, and I do a lot of things like across like other football shows and work with like, creators and all sorts of stuff like that in the industry. That's the first question they ask me, because all West Ham fans talk about is David Moyes in, David Moyes out. I did an interview on TalkSport a little while ago, and all they wanted to talk about is, does David Moyes go or stay? Because it's the clickbaity thing. Like, it'd be so good if we could just talk about the result on the weekend. Obviously, we don't want to talk about Crystal Palace battering us, but one of them ones. Whether he wins or loses, the discourse always remains the same. It's David Moyes in or David Moyes out. So if he does go at the end of the season, it would be nice to have a different topic of discussion. And hopefully it'll be something that West Ham fans can actually agree on. Whoever comes in needs to hit the ground running and put some youth players in the first team. I'm not against you, Stuart, mate. I'm really not. I think we got some, when we let Ben Rama and Tilo Kehrer go, and we let some kind of like squad players go in the January, I think that's what a lot of fans kind of expected. That the players on the bench, your Mabamas, your George Earthys, your Callum, George Earthy, what's his name? Callum Carthy, Caelan Casey. Can't think of their names. My head's gone. But yeah, they're all on the bench regularly. And we haven't seen them given an opportunity, whether that's because they're not good enough, I just don't know. Who knows? But it'd be good to see some West Ham youth players come through and, get into the side. But football's just a different beast nowadays. It's so results driven. Like, how often can you afford an opportunity to a youth player when the manager could get sacked? It's one of them things. So you can understand why certain managers do and don't do it. One of the most successful managers of all time, Jose Mourinho, he's not one for youth. You know what I mean? And look how many things he's won. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any youth players from that FA Cup youth win last year can get into the team. Obviously, we've had Divine Obama being a regular stay in the squad and made a few appearances this season. Obviously, had a great performance against Burnley, if I recall. I think he's out of contract at the end of the season. So who knows? Time will tell. Troge with once bitten, twice shy. We lost matches, but always went for it. We used to high press during COVID and bully teams. Now we are fearful. No pace, I guess, at back. Yeah, but we didn't have pace in COVID, mate. Like we had like Dawson back then. Do you know what I mean? So it's like we didn't necessarily think. I think it's just so hard to compare football to COVID times, because we now you're like playing in an empty stadium. Players have got more freedom. They've got less pressure on them. It's a less stress kind of filled environment. Like, so I don't know if you can just compare the football that we played there, because teams are more get out of ball. You only have to look at it like from, as I said earlier, when you listen to any ex-player talk about football, they always have a story about one player in training who was the best player. And we saw so many players during COVID just outperforming their normal standards because they're not in that stressful environment. Like, look at Christian Pulisic for Chelsea during that period. He looked like one of the best players in the world for a period of time. And then the fans came back and he disappeared. Do you know what I mean? He's doing all right at AC Milan now, but there's stories of that across every football club. So I just think it's so hard to complain. Not complain, compare, I should say. Over 60 goals conceded so far. Shocking for a manager who prides himself on defence. You guys really, really want to go against Moyes, didn't you? If you could pick a manager, coach, who would it be? Ingashardi. Right. That's a good question, mate. I mean, I'll put a question in there as well. Who's your ideal next manager? I'm going to put that in the chat, actually, because that is a great chat. And it was actually the topic of the conversation. Right, Ingashardi. So for me, I like the idea of the Amorim kind of appointment, but he is very much an unknown quantity in the league. Obviously, he has a great pedigree. He's got, a great kind of reputation in Portugal and whatnot. And his reputation speaks for itself when you have some of the European elite kind of, looking at you in a way where they might want you to come to the football club. Obviously, I know Liverpool have been sniffing around him, Barcelona have been sniffing around him. So it would be somewhat of a coup, it seems, if West Ham were to get him as their manager. I think for me, obviously, he sounds good. Like, we've seen the rumours of obviously going off a lot this week. But yeah, I really, really like the idea of Thomas Frank. I've liked Thomas Frank at West Ham for a while. I've kind of, I think he's a solid manager. I think, obviously, so many people keep coming in and out of this kind of YouTube thing. So I do, this show. So I do feel like I repeat myself at times. But Thomas Frank operates on a very kind of strict budget at Brentford. They operate well within their means. Can somewhat be reliant on Ivan Toney a lot of the time, but he's also had a lot of players step up this season, like in Bremo and whatnot. And I think they play some good football. I think he knows the league. I think he could play some great football at West Ham. I just feel like he could bring that. I think he could bring a style of football that could take West Ham on and kick us on. So Thomas Frank would be probably a realistic signing I would like to see. But we've all seen my only real worry is that if we bring in a Hollywood manager, we've seen it in the past. We've seen it with like Pellegrini, for example, Premier League won the Premier League at Man City, comes to West Ham, and it's just a bit of a kind of failure. Really brings in a lot of players on over the top wages, doesn't really work. There's high moments, but there's a hell of a lot of low moments. And obviously, when he left the club, it was down to David Moyes to take us from the depth to despair, really. So whoever comes in, I just want them to be afforded the time to invest in the squad, given the opportunity to invest in the squad, and also see them, do their homework, because we see so many managers coming to the Premier League and just get kicked out after a few games. So it's the risk you take, isn't it, in football? I just hope that we get a decent manager, Everton 2-0 up. Lovely. I don't know why, but I have a good feeling about Lopetegui. Had a good feeling about Moyes. He proved me right. Sure, the best football, not the best football, but progress-wise, he proved me correct. Yeah, you're not wrong, Navadius. Lopetegui's obviously got a great reputation as well. Obviously, left Wolves due to ownership squabbles, I believe, and things like that. Obviously, they had the new kind of takeover or something like that, and I think he left the club off false promises and all sorts of things like that. So either way, you know, when you've been at Real Madrid and all sorts of stuff like that, you clearly have some sort of pedigree as a manager. So he's definitely got something in the office. Sick to death being told to be careful what you wish for, none of tin. They pay to go watch us. Them pay to go watch us. Hey, Liverpool 2-0 down. Outrageous. Who do we think is going to win the title, guys? Do you think it's going to be City or Arsenal? Because it looks like Liverpool might be out of it now. Imagine Liverpool lose to Everton, and Everton have got that over their heads. That's where they lost the title. That's outrageous. It's really not working out for Klopp and his swan song, is it? All right. Some fans talk about wanting a long-term manager. Do you think West Ham fans would accept a manager that didn't get the results right away? Fremer, mate, that's your second comment in a row. West Ham fans, I feel like a lot of us have short-term memory loss. Myself, as a West Ham fan, I feel like I'm in the glory years. I'll be honest with you. You know, 31 years old. I've said it already. These are the glory years for me. I'd never seen my club in a European qualification 5 years. Sorry, European kind of like competition on a regular basis, and most importantly, being competitive. You know, we all know Astra Gugu and losing games to like that. That's the West Ham that we all kind of know and love pre-David Moyes. And over the last few years, David Moyes is kind of very much for me. I know a lot of you guys are going to obviously, you know, clearly talk about David Moyes not being the most attractive proposition for the football club, doesn't play the best football, you know, all sorts of things that you're going to throw in my face. But whether you like it or not, we've been in Europe for 3 years. There's been a lot of high moments over the last few years. And there's been more high moments than low moments. And that's not something that I will forget very soon, you know, but it has given a lot of West Ham fans like kind of this expectation that we should be now up there, you know, because let's be honest, we're probably 7th or 8th highest paying club in the Premier League. You know, we're probably where we should be in the table at the moment. We're bringing in top quality players, and the trajectory of the football club has increased. So I think if the next manager doesn't come in and doesn't get results straight away, I do feel like a lot of people will be calling for his head straight away, because West Ham fans can be a fickle bunch. Football fans can be a fickle bunch in general, but West Ham fans are just bloody hard to please, myself included at times. Right. Here we go. Heard that Amarim was only using us to get a better deal at Liverpool. There's a chance of that. There's a chance of that. Mr. Trick not getting Glasner by the looks of it. Staunton's pick, don't trust Sullivan. Frank don't think he would do well with bigger stars. No disrespect to Bees. We go for cheapest option. That is the West Ham way. Tell you what, there's a bunch of negative lads in here tonight, guys. Come on, let's peak up a bit. Come on. The Pellegrini era. Exactly, mate. Exactly. Let's not think about it. We'll have nightmares tonight. Hollywood manager would never work under Sullivan. With manager who is similar to Moyes, who can take a lot from the board. We need a manager who is similar to Moyes. Oh, yeah, mate. Sorry, I'm late to the party. No problem, Barry. Who would you pick as your next manager, mate? There's your answer. Fonseca plays attacking style, high press, entertaining. That's what football should be. I'm lucky enough to grow up watching Greenwood and Lyle's side. Nice. Sounds like a good shout. For me, I don't know too much about Fonseca. I'll be honest with you. So yeah, sounds like attractive football at the London Stadium is all we really want, isn't it? And I think, you know, David Moyes has produced that at times, last Thursday included. So let's hope we can do it. A few controversial ones in here. Fremer with a Benitez incoming. There's a chance if Nevadius wants a manager who's similar to Moyes, Benitez could be incoming, although he's having a terrible time. I think he's left his club in Spain right now, but he's having a stinker this season. Jose Mourinho. Can you imagine? Now, that would be a whirlwind 2 years, whether you like it or not about Jose Mourinho. And a lot of you guys see the trophies and everything, but he plays an incredibly pragmatic style of football as well. Let's not forget that. But what he does do is he brings you silverware. He brings you glory to your football club, and he brings a whirlwind over 2 years. He gets your football club here, and he leaves you in a high state. But when you're in a high state, you're in an absolute turmoil, and the club's about to burn down. So would you West Ham fans take that? Would you take a cup win over the next couple of years with the Jose Mourinho? Does feel like a bit of a marriage made in heaven, I'll be honest with you. You know, West Ham fans love a cult figure. They love someone that they can get behind, You know, think back in the day. You think the Canyos, you think Payets, you know, these renegade type players. Even now with Paquetá, these kind of cult figures that the football club can get behind. And Jose Mourinho is a bit of that ilk. I would love that. Imagine we got a Mourinho in and he just went and raided the old Roma side, got Dybala in. You know what I mean? That's the goal, mate. Imagine that. And will be head coach, not manager. Otherwise, no point in having a technical director. You're not wrong, mate. Man City for the fourth time. We're going to win the league. Our club has always prided itself on bringing youth through. Who has Moyes brought through? David Moyes was vital in bringing in the development of Declan Rice, mate. You know, Ben Johnson as well. Like two players that have, you know, been regular players for West Ham. Like, just feel that's a bit unfair, mate. If I'm honest with you, he's just sold a youth player from West Ham for 105 million. So I don't know what more you want, Ray of Hope. I've been a West Ham fan for 43 years, and this is one of the best squads we've got. Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. Go, you know, and just to double down on that, go back and look at the Slaven Bilic sides. Go back and look at the sides that we had under Pellegrini. If you think David Moyes, you know, if you think we're there, we're not. Like, our football side is so much better than where it is, like where that was. Honestly, guys, like the lineups that we had maybe 5-6 years ago were terrible compared to where we are now. And this is why West Ham fans have such a fickle outlook on football at times. It's like we are doing very, very well. We're probably where we should be. You know, fans want us to be up there, but like financially we're here, you know, and we're probably operating about there. So we're punching up. Just West Ham fans just can't admit that at times. Mate, I'm from Serbia. If it wasn't for Moyes, I probably wouldn't. I would probably never have seen West Ham live. Would forever be thankful to him. Lots of people in the chat tonight. I absolutely love it. I would like a manager who would give the academy players a proper look. Yeah, of course, mate. But we just need the academy players to be good enough. That's the problem. I was privileged enough to watch Moore, Hurst, Peters, Brookin, Bands, and the list go on. Barry, you're right, mate. You are right. But for every Moore, Hurst, Peters, Brookin, Bonds, there's hundreds of other youth players that haven't worked out at West Ham United Football Club. In the last 10 years alone, like think about how many players that have just left the club because they haven't been good enough. Like we all want to see players, like local players, like your Martin Nobles come through and do well. But this is what I mean. Like Divine Mabama, is he good enough to play for West Ham? And he's probably the best player in that side. Is he better than Mikel Antonio? Probably not. He's like, do you know what I mean? Like we can't just keep playing these youth players and expect them to be like top level. They haven't shown it enough. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, they probably haven't. That you can also make the argument that they haven't given enough, you know, had enough opportunity. But like, you know, are they? We don't have a Bobby Moore at the moment. You know what I mean? It's like we don't have a Jeff Hurst, we don't have a Martin Peters or a Trevor Brookin. Do you know what I mean? We just don't have those players at the moment. Like this don't exist in our squad anyway. I hope we can get at Liverpool and Chelsea. I hope we can get at Liverpool and Chelsea are crap at the moment. Maybe get something at Luton. We have to get something at Luton. Chelsea, we have to get something there as well. Liverpool, hopefully their season's over by that point. Fingers crossed. And yeah, Newcastle are losing 2. This is a rogue one from Gads. What about Southgate? For me, I don't think I would want Gareth Southgate because it's like, you know, it feels like a sideways step, if I'm honest. But I don't know if Gareth Southgate's done enough to warrant the West Ham job. I know that might sound outrageous, but I'm not sure on that one, mate. I don't know. Jose, Mr. Sullivan paying, I don't speak. I need this. For me, mate, I think Almiron is waiting to see what to do by the end of the season before signing for us. Maybe Fonseca, if that's all we got. Southgate plays the same tactics as Moyes. Also, he's a twit. New manager needs a lot of work. Needs 1 year. Get his team. Absolutely. Oh, Bilic, no yikes. Exactly. A little bit off topic. Here we go. Heard about 2 90-year-old players getting arrested. Think it's Brighton players. They hadn't had a game at the weekend. No idea on that one, mate. Agree, best first team, but squad. Yeah, it's true. Why? Well, yeah, on that, on that, like in terms of the first team, but our squad is filled with youth players. I'm assuming that's what you're kind of replying to, Steve. Like, we all want to see kind of players given the opportunity, and we've seen it on a few occasions this year. But it's just like, if we've got serious injuries to the squad that we have at times, and the youth players aren't getting opportunities, and when they are getting opportunities, they're not showing it. Like, football's a ruthless game. Like, you kind of sometimes have to take opportunities by the scruff of the neck and go with it. And I don't mean to sound like condescending or anything like that, or too dismissive of youth players at West Ham, because they clearly have huge talent. Like, they won FA Youth Cups last year, like beat 5-0 in the final against Arsenal. I was there. It was an incredible game. A lot of those players are on the bench for West Ham every week at the moment, but like, if they're not starting for West Ham, like, they're, you know what I mean? Either there's not an opportunity for them, or they're not good enough. Like, we kind of just have to appreciate that. And like I said, there's been so many youth players over the years that have left the football club that West Ham fans have screamed about. Like, let's think about it. Like, Mark Noble himself came out a few years ago. Remember when Grady Diangana left West Ham and went to West Brom, and he came out himself against the board? What's he done at West Brom? Do you know what I mean? Like, and he's in the Championship. Like, so many players are like that over West Ham over the years. Freddie Sears, who came through and set the world alight on his West Ham debut against Blackburn. And then where did he go? He spent most of his career at Colchester and Ipswich, I believe. So it's just, there's millions of players like that for West Ham who have been like that. We can all pick out your Bobby Moores and your Jeff Hursts and your Trevor Brookins, but like, it's like saying, we've got a Wayne Rooney in our football club at the moment who isn't given a game. It's just like, how many are there? You know what I mean? How many? Like, let's just look across football. How many Bobby Moores are there? How many Trevor Brookins are there? Like, how many Jeff Hursts are there in football at the moment? Like, do they even exist across any academy in the world? We're talking about world-class players, why do we pay lots of money for players, then they don't fit into our system? Don't they do any homework? Who are you talking about in particular there, Ray of Hope? Ashby and Perkins. Yep, 2 players that left. Obviously, Ashby went to Newcastle, is now on loan, I believe, and then Sonny Perkins went to Leeds. Yeah. Yep, I think the youth team is not quite ready physically. There's a chance. Agent's fault, I suspect. Possibly. But given a proper run of games with Obama, could be a bloody good striker and be like an Antonio. Could he, though? Like, you watch him play, he's nothing like Antonio. He doesn't play the same way. He's a poacher. Like, he doesn't run the channels in the same way. He's not got the same physicality. He's not as quick. He's a poacher. He's a finisher. Like, he's a different player entirely. He's closer to Danny Ings than he is Mikel Antonio. And it just doesn't fit the system at times. He's come on and done well in games. Don't get me wrong. But, like, there's been times where we needed youth players this year and some of them haven't performed. Look at Bristol City. What happened? I would like a manager like Pep to take over and see what he can do with us. Yeah. Let's get Sir Alex Ferguson in, lads. Let's do it. Mabama's first touch is poor. Skamaka is amazing. Just scored a screamer and had another screamer ruled out. Never forgive Moyes losing him. He was shit for West Ham. Let's be clear. Gary O'Neill. Yep, not a bad shout. If we did, we would sell them. Good young players: Defoe, Carrick, Ferdinand, Cole, Echt. Yeah, possibly. It is. Looks like nobody wants 7th this year. League has really been poor this season. Gutted how we didn't use it this year. Just noticed the Raiders had been a fan since '80 when they were in Oakland. Yeah, I am an NFL guy as well, guys. Appreciate that, P-Gads. Typical Man United, get a pen. What's the scores in all the other games, guys? Funny how Potter is booking bookies' favourites and he's yet to be linked with us. Do you know what? When you look at Chelsea, for example, and you look at the fact that he didn't have a pre-season, he didn't really have a transfer window, he wasn't given the opportunity to get a side that he wants, and you compare the job that he did against the job that Pochettino is now doing, he did a much better job at Chelsea. Even Frank Lampard did, let's be honest. And even in the low points, the problem is the low points when they were in the Frank Lampard era and the Graham Potter era, both, like both of them, Chelsea fans were screaming for them to be sacked. And now, like, no one seems to be singing about Pochettino staying. It's much quieter. It's shocking. Bring back Reece Oxford. I was pissed when he left. I really liked him. And Marcus Brown, they're amazing youth players. Barry, mate, like, come on, mate. Like, yeah, sure. Reece Oxford, like, was great for us. but then he left the club under a dark cloud. Like Marcus Brown, I think he's playing at Oxford. Like, they're not going to start for West Ham United in the Premier League, a team that are trying to get to the like qualify for Europe. Like, there's just levels. Like, these players were under the Slaven Bilic era. Like, come on, man. Like, it's just not going to happen. No, Babama is missing a lot of qualities. He needs at least 1 or 2 good loans. Babama is much better than Ings, mate. Come on, he ain't had the time to prove he's good enough. Babama never gets played. What are you talking about? Lads, when I've said numerous times, like, when Babama gets a chance, there's been times this season, like against Burnley, where he comes on, scored the goal, later got ruled as an own goal by Burnley. He's made impactful starts at West Ham, for the club this year. But as a youth player in football in 2024, that is very much what you need to do. You need to take opportunities when you get them. And there's been times where he hasn't. That's the reality of the situation, you know. You could say, Danny Ings hasn't done that either. But I'm my response was to you saying Mabama can be like Antonio. It was like, well, if you look at both players in isolation, they are very different, very, very different. They play completely different as a striker. Antonio is he's a bully. He's physical. He'll run the channels. He'll outfight everyone. He'll run for anything. On the off chance that it can create an opportunity, Mabama is much more of a poacher. He's not going to do that work that David Moyes will want from a striker. You know, he's very much more closer to Danny Ings. I'm not saying he's better or worse than Danny Ings. I'm saying he's closer to the play style with Danny Ings. And Mabama is nowhere near the same player as what Antonio is. There's no one. Antonio, like, there isn't really another Antonio in football at the moment, especially in the Premier League. Like, that comparison just doesn't work. Is all I'm trying to say. Agree. Potter was onto something with that Chelsea team. Stuart, enjoyed the chat. Always love having you in here, Stu, mate. Good man. Please don't do that to me. Reece Oxford is my favourite player that came through our academy. I still have hopes that he'll come back one day. He hasn't played a game in about 18 months, by the way, in Germany. He actually hasn't played a professional game. He's got some sort of injury, I believe, and he's out of contract at the end of the season. Yeah. My Guys, I'm back. Some of the comments in here have been class. I don't know what just happened there, but my laptop crashed halfway through the stream, and I'm just reading some of the chats. Class. I'm just gonna throw them up here. Did he freeze, or is just that me? Froze, or is it just me? Mate, I think we broke the internet. No one has mentioned Moyes in a while. Is this the Twilight Zone? It's not Jamie Talks. It's Jamie bloody freezes. Unbelievable. Some great shouts in here, guys. Yeah, so sorry about that. I'm back in the room. Completely thrown me off there, mate. Let me know if you guys can hear me, because my laptop is currently doing backflips and I don't know what is happening. Bear with me 2 seconds. Yeah, right. We should be back live as normal. I'm just going to hold that up there for a while, Fremmer. Absolute MVP of the stream so far. You're definitely getting man of the match, mate. It's not Jamie Talks, it's Jamie Freezes. Unbelievable. Yeah, so sorry about that, guys. Any English defenders that West Ham could realistically get, whether in the Prem or in the lower leagues? Well, the one that we were linked with in the summer was obviously Max Kilman. And I think if we did get Lopetegui, obviously ex-Wolves, he might have an in there to maybe bring him in. Who's not to suggest that we won't try and get Harry Maguire in again? I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, mate. I think there's a bunch of players that we could get, even if we try getting like a Wan-Bissaka from Man United. I'm not sure. I think there's a bunch of English defenders are definitely in the Premier League that we'll probably try to get. It just depends on who the next manager is, or if it's David Moyes or not. Yeah, appreciate you guys. Kilman and Chalobah, only that I can think of. I tell you what, some of the comments in there are absolutely quality. Does Dawson have a son? Yeah, come on. Let's put some respect on his name, Charger. Come on, it's Ballon Dawson. No, what's his son's name? Come on, unbelievable. So yeah, guys, I'm going to start wrapping up soon. Believe it or not, before I was, crashed. I appreciate you all staying in the chat and Fremmer coming in with probably the best comment I've seen this week. So top man on that. But yeah, let's look at some of the. I'll tell you what, guys. Let's actually look at some of the other scores tonight. Let's see what they are. Because I can see you guys talking a lot about everything. Oh, what on earth is going on? Crystal Palace, 2 big games in a row for them. Big win against Newcastle. Obviously, Arsenal yesterday 5-0. Big win for Bournemouth today. 1-0 at Wolves. Man United 4-2 to Sheffield United. They're really in the bin, aren't they? Sheffield United might be one of the worst Premier League sides I've ever seen, alongside Burnley. Man United, they conceded 2 to Sheffield. Jesus. And Everton 2-0 to. That is crazy. The swan song for Klopp is not going to plan, is it? Unbelievable. Lewis Dunk. God, I think it would take a lot of money to get him out of Brighton, and I don't think he would ever leave. Right. The new coach, whoever we get in, is going to have a big job on his hands. Strikers who can't score and defenders who can't think. Helen, who would you like to come into the club? We'd love to. I'd love to hear your thoughts. We've been talking about it for a little while now, and there's been lots of big names thrown in there. Man United are 4-2 up. Lopetegui guy feels like Pellegrini Mark II for me. Yeah, Ballon Jr. top man. Gotta love it. Liverpool downfall. Premier League is back. No, Dunk is so overrated. All right, guys. I'm going to start wrapping things up. Bloody hell, I'm going to finish on that. Tarkowski, we can waste the whole window chasing him, waiting for him to turn us down again. And El Naziri. Yeah, I'm waiting to be linked with El Naziri again. So yeah, thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Apologies for the stream crashing about 5 minutes ago. No idea what happened there. Appreciate you all staying in the chat and keeping in light spirits while I scrambled on my side to try and get the stream back up. As I said, I'm Jamie Talks. You can find me on all socials at Jamie Talks if you do want to follow me, that is, or if you want to talk to me about football, I'm always available to talk about West Ham. So let's just do that for sure. Next week I'll be back at 9 o'clock with the wrap up on the West Ham Network. Thanks to the guys for having me on again. And let's just get Dean Ashton in. What a man. Right, guys, catch you all later. Have a lovely week. Let's beat Liverpool on the weekend. See you later.